The alarm bells rang through Crosshaven Terminal like angry thunder. Daesung looked up from his coffee, startled by the sudden noise. Red lights flashed along the walls of the small cafe where he sat. Around him, aliens of different shapes and sizes stopped what they were doing. Everyone looked worried. What's happening? Daesung asked his friend Taeho, who worked as a cargo handler on the station. Taeho pressed his finger against the communication device in his ear. His face turned serious. Emergency docking. A Vorkan ship. Someone's hurt bad. Daesung felt his stomach tighten. He had heard about Vorkans. Everyone had. They were massive creatures, almost 9 feet tall, covered in thick fur like bears from Earth. They were strong, proud, and known for their bad tempers. Most species in the galaxy tried to stay on their good side. "Come on," Taeho said, standing up. "Let's see what's going on." They left the cafe and joined the crowd moving toward the main docking bay. Crosshaven Terminal was a huge structure that floated in space, orbiting a giant gas planet. It served as a meeting point for traders, travelers, and diplomats from dozens of different worlds. Humans were still new here. It had only been 80 years since Earth made contact with alien life. Some species still looked at humans as the newcomers, the ones who didn't quite belong yet. The docking bay was chaos. A large ship, dark and battle-scarred, had just connected to the station. Its hull was damaged with burn marks and a hastily sealed breach visible on one side. Vorkan crew members rushed out, their massive forms pushing through the crowd. They were carrying something between them. It was another Vorkan, even bigger than the others. His body was limp, his breathing shallow and rough. Dark blood stained his fur and dripped onto the metal floor. The blood hissed and bubbled where it landed, eating away at the surface. Acidic, Daesung realized. Vorkan blood was acidic. Medical team, one of the Vorkans roared. His voice was so loud it hurt Daesung's ears. "We need a doctor now." The station's medical officer arrived within minutes. Her name was Ji-won, a Quellan from a reptilian species known for their intelligence and cold logic. She wore the white uniform of the medical corps and carried a scanning device in her scaled hands. 2 assistants followed behind her, also Quellans. Ji-won approached the injured Vorkan without fear. She ran her scanner over his body, her eyes fixed on the readings. The Vorkan who had called for help stepped forward. He was clearly the first mate, his uniform marked with symbols of rank. "His name is Grath," the first mate said. His voice was tight with emotion. "He is our captain. He sealed a hull breach with his own body to save the crew. The radiation. The damage," Ji-won continued her scan in silence. After a long moment, she stepped back and shook her head. "I cannot help him." The words fell like stones. The Vorkan crew members froze. The first mate's eyes went wide. "What did you say?" "I said I cannot help him," Ji-won repeated. Her voice was calm, clinical. "Vorkan physiology is too dangerous to work on. Your blood is highly acidic and will destroy my equipment. Your pain response triggers violent aggression, which puts my staff at risk. His injuries are severe, and even with proper equipment, his survival probability is only 12%. I will not risk my team and resources for such low odds." The first mate took a step toward her, his massive hands curled into fists. "You refuse to help our captain? You refuse to even try?" "I am being logical," Ji-won said. "Medical resources must be used where they have the best chance of success. I am sorry, but this is my decision." Around them, more aliens had gathered to watch. A Draxian security officer named Yuna moved closer, her insect-like eyes watching the Vorkans carefully. Her hand rested on the weapon at her side. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut. Daesung watched from the back of the crowd. He could see Grath on the medical platform, his chest barely moving. The injured Vorkan's eyes were half open, unfocused. His breathing rattled in his throat. Daesung had heard that sound before in animals that were dying. "This is an insult," the first mate growled. "You dishonor our captain. You dishonor our entire clan." "I am a medical officer, not a politician," Ji-won replied. "I deal in facts and probabilities, not honor." The first mate's hand moved to his weapon. Other Vorkan crew members did the same. Yuna stepped forward, her own weapon now drawn. More security officers appeared at the edges of the crowd. "Everyone stay calm," Yuna said in her clicking voice. "We don't want violence on this station." But Daesung could see that violence was exactly what was about to happen. The Vorkans were desperate and angry. Their honor demanded they protect their captain. If he died because someone refused to help, they would see it as murder. Taeho grabbed Daesung's arm. We should go. This is going to get bad. But Daesung couldn't move. He kept looking at Grath. The captain's breathing was getting weaker. His body shook with pain. Daesung thought about all the animals he had treated over the years. The injured bears at the wildlife sanctuary. The horses in shock after accidents. The elephant with the collapsed lung. He had seen that same look in their eyes, that same desperate struggle to survive. Jiwon was walking away now, her assistants following. The Vorkans watched her go, their rage building. The first mate's hand tightened on his weapon. Wait, Daesung heard himself say. The word came out quieter than he meant. No one heard him. He cleared his throat and tried again, louder this time. Wait. This time heads turned. The crowd parted slightly. Jiwon stopped and looked back at him. Daesung pushed through the crowd, his heart pounding. He didn't know what he was doing. He just knew he had to do something. Who are you? Jiwon asked. My name is Daesung. I'm a veterinarian. He looked past her at Grath. I can help him. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Jiwon laughed. It was a short, sharp sound. You are joking. No, Daesung said. I'm not. You fix animals, Jiwon said. Livestock, pets, this is a sentient being. This is a Vorkan warrior with injuries you have never encountered in a species you know nothing about. Daesung met her eyes. I've treated grizzly bears that could tear me apart. I've worked on horses 3 times my size when they were in shock. I saved a bull elephant with a punctured lung using equipment meant for cows. Size doesn't scare me. Danger doesn't scare me. He paused. Suffering does. The first mate turned to look at him. You are human? Yes. You are an animal doctor? Yes. The first mate's expression was hard to read. Daesung couldn't tell if it was anger or confusion or something else entirely. You would treat our captain? You would treat him like an animal? It was a test, Daesung realized. The wrong answer here would mean disaster, but he only had one answer to give. The truth. I would treat him like someone who's hurting and needs help. Daesung said simply, That's all I see. Someone who needs help. The first mate stared at him for a long moment. Then he looked at his captain, dying on the medical platform. He looked at Jiwon, who had turned her back on them. He looked at his crew, who were watching him with desperate hope. Finally, he spoke. Our captain is the son of a clan chieftain. His death would bring war between our people and the station. But to be treated by an animal doctor, he shook his head. This is a great dishonor. He's dying, Daesung said quietly. There's no honor in that either. The silence stretched. Then Grath made a sound, a low moan of pain. The first mate's decision was written on his face before he spoke. Do what you can, human. Daesung walked toward the medical platform where Grath lay. Each step felt heavy, like moving through water. He could feel every eye in the docking bay watching him. The Vorkan crew members, the security officers, the curious crowd of aliens. Even Jiwon had stopped to watch, her scaled face showing something that might have been curiosity or amusement. As he got closer, Daesung could see just how badly injured Grath was. The captain's fur was matted with dark blood. His breathing came in short, painful gasps. His eyes were open but unfocused, looking at nothing. The smell hit Daesung next, a mix of burned flesh and something chemical. Radiation damage. The hull breach must have exposed him to terrible things, but what struck Daesung most was how Grath was moving. Even unconscious, even dying, the captain's body was tense. His muscles twitched. His claws flexed and unflexed. His body was fighting against invisible restraints, against the pain that consumed him. He needs to be restrained, Jiwon called out from behind. A Vorkan in pain will attack anything nearby. Their nervous system triggers automatic aggression. Daesung ignored her. He approached slowly, his hands visible and empty. He had learned this approach years ago, working with frightened animals. Never make sudden movements. Never show fear. Fear makes them more afraid. Don't get too close, and the first mate warned. Even dying, he could kill you with one swipe. Daesung nodded but kept moving. He was now close enough to touch Grath. The captain's body radiated heat like a furnace. His breathing was getting more labored. Time was running out. Easy, Daesung said softly. His voice was barely above a whisper. Easy, buddy. He placed his hand on Grath's massive shoulder. The fur was rough and hot under his palm. He could feel the muscles beneath, tense as steel cables. For a moment, nothing happened. Then slowly something changed. Grath's breathing shifted. Still painful, still struggling, but different. His eyes moved, searching. They found Sung's face. For just a second there was focus there. Recognition, maybe. Or just awareness that someone was there. Someone was touching him gently instead of restraining him or running away. I know it hurts. Sung continued in that same quiet voice. I know you're scared, but I'm here to help. I promise I'm here to help. Behind him, someone gasped. Sung didn't turn to look. He kept his eyes on Grath, kept his hands steady on that massive shoulder. The captain's breathing slowed just a little. His muscles relaxed just a fraction. Impossible, Jiwan muttered. Vorkans don't respond to vocal soothing. But Grath was responding. His body was still in terrible pain, but the panic was easing. Sung had seen this before in injured animals. The sound of a calm voice, the presence of someone who wasn't afraid, who wasn't there to hurt them. It reached something deeper than logic or medicine. The first mate stepped forward, his eyes wide. How are you doing that? I'm not doing anything special, Sung said, still keeping his voice low and steady. I'm just letting him know he's not alone. He looked at Grath's injuries more carefully now. The radiation burns covered much of his chest and arms. There was internal bleeding, he was sure of it. The way Grath's breathing rattled suggested fluid in his lungs. Broken ribs, maybe. Organ damage, definitely. This was bad. This was very bad. But Sung had seen bad before. He thought about the grizzly bear back on Earth. Hit by a transport vehicle, its body broken. Everyone said it couldn't be saved. Sung had spent 14 hours in surgery, using every trick he knew. The bear lived. He thought about the elephant. Collapsed in its enclosure, its breathing stopped. Sung had improvised a way to restart its heart. The elephant lived too. I need help, Sung said, looking at the first mate. I can't do this alone. Tell me what you need. First, I need space to work. Not here, somewhere bigger. He looked around the docking bay. Somewhere we can set up properly. Teho pushed through the crowd. The cargo bay. It's huge and it's empty right now. We can clear it out. Good. Sung looked at the first mate again. I need my equipment. My veterinary supplies. They're in my cargo container, section 7. I'll have my crew bring everything, the first mate said immediately. I'll help, Teho added. Tell me what you need. Yuna, the security officer, stepped forward. I'll make sure no one interferes. I'll post guards at the cargo bay entrance. Sung felt a wave of gratitude. These people didn't know him. They had no reason to help. But they were willing to try. Wait, Jiwon's voice cut through the moment. She walked up to Sung, her eyes cold. You realize what you're doing is foolish. You have no training in Vorkan medicine. You don't have the right equipment. You're going to fail, and when you do, these Vorkans will blame you. They might blame all humans. Sung met her gaze. Maybe, but if I don't try, he dies for sure. I'd rather fail trying than succeed at nothing. That's emotional thinking, not logical. Maybe emotion is what's needed right now. Jiwon's face showed no expression, but something flickered in her eyes. Disappointment, maybe. Or was it respect? Sung couldn't tell. When you fail, she said quietly, don't come asking for my help. I won't need to, Sung replied, because I'm not going to fail. Jiwon turned and walked away, her assistants following. The crowd parted for her. Sung watched her go and felt a small doubt creep in. She was right about one thing. This was dangerous. This was probably foolish. He had no idea if Vorkan biology was anything like the animals he had treated. He was guessing, hoping, improvising, but Grath moaned again and the doubt disappeared. There was no time for second guessing. Let's move him, Sung said. Carefully. Very carefully. The Vorkan crew members lifted their captain with surprising gentleness. They carried him through the station, Sung walking beside them with his hand still on Grath's shoulder. People moved out of the way, staring. Word was spreading fast. The human veterinarian was going to try to save a Vorkan captain. It was the kind of story that would be told for weeks. The cargo bay was perfect. It was a massive open space with high ceilings and good lighting. Teho and some other cargo handlers had already started clearing it out, pushing containers to the sides. They set up a flat platform in the center, large enough for Grath's huge body. Sung's supplies arrived quickly. The Vorkans had brought his entire container. He opened it and started pulling out equipment. Surgical tools, scanners, medical supplies. Everything was designed for large animals. Earth animals. He had no idea if any of it would work on a Vorkan. What do you need me to do? Taeho asked. You're going to be my assistant, Daesung said. I'll tell you exactly what to do step by step. Can you handle that? Taeho looked nervous but nodded. I can handle it. Good. Daesung turned to the first mate. What's your name? Krell. Krell, I need you and your crew to stand back. Give me room to work. If something goes wrong, if Grath wakes up or starts fighting, I need you to help restrain him. But gently. No violence unless absolutely necessary. Krell nodded slowly. You speak to me like an equal. You speak to our captain like a friend. You are strange, human. My name is Daesung. Daesung, Krell repeated, testing the name. If you save our captain, you will have the gratitude of the Vorkan clans. If you fail... He didn't finish the sentence. I know, Daesung said. I know what happens if I fail. He took a deep breath and looked at Grath lying on the platform. The captain's breathing was getting weaker. They were running out of time. Daesung picked up a scanner and began his examination. The readings were worse than he thought. Multiple organ damage, severe internal bleeding, radiation poisoning that was spreading through Grath's system like poison, and that acidic blood constantly eating away at anything it touched. This was impossible. Jiwan was right. The odds were terrible, but Daesung had never been good at accepting impossible. Okay, buddy, he whispered to Grath. Let's get to work. He rolled up his sleeves and reached for his first surgical tool. Behind him, the Vorkan crew watched in silence. Yuna stood guard at the entrance. Taeho waited for instructions, ready to help. And somewhere else on the station, Jiwan watched the security feed from her office, wondering if the human veterinarian was brave or simply insane. Daesung didn't care which it was. He had work to do. The first problem was the blood. Daesung learned this within minutes of starting his examination. Every time Grath's acidic blood touched metal, it hissed and bubbled. His standard surgical tools began to corrode almost immediately. He watched. A perfectly good scalpel develop pits and holes in seconds. This isn't going to work, Taeho said, watching the tools melt. Everything we have is metal. Daesung thought fast. He remembered treating a species of reptilian farm animals back on his home colony. They had acidic saliva that destroyed metal feeding equipment. The solution had been ceramic bowls. Ceramic didn't react to acid. The ceramic tools, he said, pointing to a container. The ones I use for the acid-spitting lizards. Get those. Taeho found them quickly. The tools looked strange, white and smooth instead of shiny metal. They were designed for veterinary work on exotic animals. Daesung had never imagined he would use them on someone like Grath. He tested one carefully, making a small incision to access the internal bleeding. The blood bubbled against the ceramic but didn't eat through it. The tool held. It works, Taeho breathed in relief. First problem solved, Daesung said. 1,000 more to go. He began the real work. The radiation damage was extensive. Grath's organs were failing one by one. The captain's liver was damaged, his kidneys were shutting down, and his lungs were filling with fluid. Every scan showed something worse than the last. Daesung had to prioritize. Stop the bleeding first. That was the most immediate threat. He worked carefully, using the ceramic tools to seal off damaged blood vessels. It was delicate work, made harder by Grath's size. Everything was bigger, deeper, harder to reach. Clamp, he said to Taeho. Which one? The large one. No, larger. The largest one we have. Taeho handed it over. Daesung used it to hold back tissue while he worked deeper. Grath's body was incredibly dense. His muscles were thick. His bones were like iron. Everything about him was built to be tough, to survive. But even the toughest body had limits. Hours passed. Daesung's back ached from bending over the massive patient. His hands were steady but tired. Sweat dripped down his face. The cargo bay was hot from all the bodies and equipment. Krell and the other Vorkans watched without moving. They stood like statues, their eyes fixed on their captain. Occasionally, one would whisper something in their own language. Daesung didn't understand the words, but he understood the tone. They were praying, hoping, willing their captain to survive. How's his blood pressure? Daesung asked. Taeho checked the monitor they had rigged up. Dropping. It's at 60/30. Too low. Way too low. Dae-sung needed to work faster, but he couldn't rush this. One wrong move and he could make things worse. The next problem was the internal organs. The radiation had essentially cooked them from the inside. Grath's liver was barely functioning. Dae-sung couldn't replace it. He didn't have transplant organs. He didn't even know if Vorkan organs could be transplanted. What he could do was support it. He had drugs designed to help damaged livers in large animals. They were meant for horses and cattle, but biology was biology. He mixed a careful dose and injected it directly into the organ. "You're just guessing," Taeho said quietly. "Aren't you?" "Educated guessing," Dae-sung corrected. "But yes, I'm guessing." "What if you guess wrong?" "Then I guess again." The lungs were the next crisis. They were filling with fluid faster than Grath's body could clear it. He was drowning from the inside. Dae-sung needed to drain the fluid, but the lungs were deep inside that massive chest cavity. He couldn't reach them with normal tools. He improvised. Using a long tube meant for draining fluid from horse lungs and a pump designed for livestock, he created a drainage system. It was crude, but it worked. Dark fluid began flowing out, and Grath's breathing eased slightly. "That's good, right?" Taeho asked. "That's progress?" "It's something," Dae-sung said. He didn't want to give false hope. They were still far from safe. 5 hours into the surgery, Grath's heart stopped. The monitor shrieked in alarm. The flat line on the screen was like a knife to Dae-sung's chest. Taeho froze. The Vorkan crew members surged forward, but Krell held them back with one massive arm. "Do something," Krell roared. Dae-sung was already moving. He positioned his hands on Grath's chest, trying to find the right spot for compressions, but the captain's rib cage was impossibly thick. Dae-sung pushed down with all his strength and nothing happened. The chest barely moved. He tried again, and again. His arms burned with effort. It wasn't working. He wasn't strong enough. No human would be strong enough. "The defibrillator," Taeho suggested, "won't work. His chest is too thick. The charge won't reach the heart." "Then what do we do?" Dae-sung looked around desperately. His eyes fell on a cargo loading machine in the corner. It was a pneumatic press, designed to lift and move heavy containers. It had a flat pressing surface and adjustable pressure settings. An insane idea formed in his mind. "Help me move that," he said, pointing at the machine. "What? Why?" "Just help me." They wheeled the cargo loader over to the platform. Dae-sung positioned it above Grath's chest. His hands were shaking as he adjusted the settings. Too much pressure and he would crush Grath's ribcage. Too little, and it wouldn't do anything. "This is crazy," Taeho said. "You're going to use a cargo machine for compressions? Do you have a better idea?" Taeho had no answer. Dae-sung activated the press. The flat surface descended slowly, making contact with Grath's chest. He increased the pressure gradually, watching the readouts. When it reached what he thought was the right level, he activated the compression cycle. The machine pressed down, released, pressed down, released. A steady rhythm, like a heartbeat. For long seconds, nothing happened. The monitor stayed flat. Dae-sung held his breath. Then, a blip. A single heartbeat, then another. The monitor beeped. Grath's heart was beating again. Weak, irregular, but beating. "It worked," Taeho whispered. "You brought him back with a forklift." Dae-sung allowed himself one moment of relief. Just one. Then he was back to work. They weren't done. Not even close. The radiation damage was still spreading. Grath's body was fighting a losing battle against the poison in his system. Dae-sung needed something to counteract the radiation, to give Grath's body a chance to heal. He looked through his supplies. He had radiation treatments, but they were designed for much smaller animals. The dosage was all wrong. If he gave Grath the equivalent dose for his size, he would run out of medicine before finishing the treatment. Another improvisation. Dae-sung mixed what he had with some general antibiotics and immune boosters. It was a cocktail that had never been tested. that probably violated every medical protocol in existence. But it was all he had. He administered the mixture slowly, watching Grath's vital signs for any adverse reaction. The captain's body seemed to accept it. The reading stabilized just a little. 8 hours into the surgery, Dae-sung realized they had company. More aliens had gathered outside the cargo bay. Word had spread throughout the station. They pressed against the windows, watching. Some were recording. This was becoming an event. Among the crowd, Dae-sung spotted Ji-won. The Quellan medical officer stood with her arms crossed, her face unreadable. She was watching every move he made. "Ignore them," Tai-ho said. "Focus on the patient." "Good advice." Dae-sung turned back to Grath. The captain's condition was improving, but they had a new problem. The ceramic tools were starting to wear down from hours of use. He was running out of supplies. A knock came at the cargo bay door. Yuna opened it slightly. A Draxian engineer stood there holding a box. "I heard you need better tools," the engineer said. "I make things. I brought refined ceramics, harder. They'll last longer." Dae-sung wanted to cry with relief. "Thank you. Thank you so much." More aliens came after that. A Quellan merchant brought rare medicines going against his own people's doctor. A human trader donated his entire medical kit. A Novan pilot offered specialized scanning equipment. The station was helping, not just watching, but actively helping. "Why are they doing this?" Krell asked quietly. He had moved closer to watch Dae-sung work. "Because they care," Dae-sung said simply. "They see someone fighting for a life, and they want to help. But we are Vorkans. Many species fear us. Some hate us. Maybe, but right now they just see someone who needs help." 10 hours in, Grath's vital signs were stable. Not good, but stable. The immediate danger had passed. But Dae-sung knew the hard part was coming. The recovery. The long battle against radiation poisoning and organ damage. This would take days, maybe weeks, and he couldn't do it alone. He needed expertise he didn't have. He needed equipment he didn't have access to. He needed Ji-won, but Ji-won had refused to help. She had walked away. Dae-sung looked at the monitor, at Grath's weak but steady heartbeat. He had come this far. He couldn't give up now. "Tae-ho," he said, "I need you to go to Ji-won. Tell her I need her help. Tell her Grath's life depends on it." Tae-ho left the cargo bay at a run. Dae-sung stayed with Grath, monitoring every breath, every heartbeat. The captain was stable, but barely. It was like balancing on the edge of a knife. One wrong move and everything would fall apart. Krell stood nearby, his massive arms crossed over his chest. "You have done more than anyone expected. More than anyone thought possible." "It's not enough," Dae-sung said. "His neural pathways are deteriorating. I can see it in the scans. The radiation damaged his nervous system. I don't know Vorkan neurology. I don't know how to fix this. Then he will die? Not if I can help it." 20 minutes passed. 30. Dae-sung kept working, doing what he could. He cleaned wounds, monitored vitals, adjusted medications. But he could see the neural degradation getting worse. Grath's brain activity was becoming erratic. If this continued, even if his body survived, his mind might not. The cargo bay door opened. Tae-ho came back, breathing hard. Behind him walked Ji-won. The Quellan medical officer carried her medical kit. Her face showed no emotion as she approached. She looked at Grath, at the improvised equipment, at the makeshift operating theater Dae-sung had created. Her eyes swept over everything with clinical precision. "You used a cargo press for cardiac compression," she said. It wasn't a question. "Yes. And these ceramic veterinary tools for surgery?" "Yes. You mixed 3 different medications that should never be combined." "I did. You violated approximately 47 medical protocols." Ji-won set down her kit. "And somehow, impossibly, he's alive." Dae-sung met her eyes. "I did what I had to do. But I need your help now. His neural pathways are failing. I can see it, but I don't know how to stop it." Ji-won was silent for a long moment. Then she turned to Krell. "Why did you allow this? Why did you let an animal doctor work on your captain?" Krell's voice was rough. "Because he was willing to try when you were not." The words hung in the air. Ji-won's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. She looked at the crowd of aliens pressed against the windows outside. She looked at the donated equipment, the supplies that had come from a dozen different species. Yuna came to see me, Jiwan said finally. She told me I had forgotten what it means to be a healer. She said I chose logic over compassion. She paused. She was right. Dae-sung felt hope rise in his chest. Will you help? Tell me what you need. His neural pathways, here and here. Dae-sung pointed to the scans. The deterioration is spreading. If we don't stop it, he'll lose brain function. Jiwan studied the scans carefully. Her scaled fingers moved over the display, pulling up different views. Her medical knowledge was vast, trained and precise where Dae-sung's was improvised and experimental. The radiation damaged the myelin sheath around his nerve fibers, she said. It's like insulation on a wire. Without it, the signals don't transmit properly. Can you fix it? I have a synthetic compound that can repair myelin. It's experimental, designed for Quellan biology, but the basic neurological structure is similar. She looked at him. But the procedure is delicate. One mistake and we could cause permanent brain damage. Then we don't make mistakes. Jiwan almost smiled. Almost. You have confidence. Foolish but admirable. She opened her medical kit. We'll need to work together. Your hands are steadier than mine for the physical manipulation. Mine are better for the precise injection. They worked as a team. Jiwan guided Dae-sung's hands, telling him exactly where to position the injection sites. He held the tools steady while she administered the compound. It was intricate work requiring total focus. There, Jiwan said after what felt like hours. The first pathway is repaired, they moved to the next. And the next? Grath's neural activity began to stabilize. The erratic patterns smoothed out. His brain waves showed more normal rhythms. It's working, Dae-sung said. Of course it's working, Jiwan replied. I don't do things that don't work. But there was something different in her voice now. Less cold, less distant. She was focused on the patient, on saving Grath. The calculation about odds and resources had been replaced by pure determination to heal. Why did you change your mind? Dae-sung asked as they worked. Jiwan didn't answer immediately. Her hands continued their precise movements. I watched you on the security feed. For 11 hours I watched. I saw how you refused to give up. I saw how others came to help you. I saw a cargo handler with no training follow your instructions perfectly, because he believed in what you were doing. I saw strangers donate their supplies to save someone they didn't know. She paused to adjust an instrument. I realized I had calculated everything except the one thing that mattered most. The will to try. You showed me that sometimes the improbable is worth attempting, even when logic says otherwise. You're a good doctor, Dae-sung said. You were just scared. I do not get scared. Everyone gets scared. It's what we do with the fear that matters. They continued working in companionable silence. Outside, the crowd had grown even larger. News of Jiwan joining the effort had spread. The station's lead medical officer and a human veterinarian, working together to save a Vorkan captain. It was the kind of story people would remember. Krell watched them work with something like wonder on his face. I did not think such cooperation was possible. A Quellan and a human working to save a Vorkan. That's what medicine should be, Dae-sung said. No species. No politics. Just healers and patients. You speak wisdom for one so young. I'm 34. That is young. Krell's voice rumbled with something that might have been laughter. But your actions are those of someone much older. Hours blended together. Dae-sung lost track of time. His entire world narrowed to Grath, to the readings on the monitors, to Jiwan's quiet instructions and his own steady hands. Finally, Jiwan stepped back. The neural pathways are stable. The treatment is complete. Dae-sung checked the scans. She was right. Grath's brain activity was normal for someone in his condition. The immediate danger had passed. What now? Taeho asked. Now we wait, Jiwan said. His body needs time to heal. The radiation damage will take weeks to fully repair. But he should survive. Should, not will. Dae-sung understood the difference. They had done everything they could, but Grath still had to fight this battle himself. He's strong, Krell said. Our captain is the strongest warrior in our clan. He will survive. As if responding to those words, Grath stirred. It was small, just a slight movement of his hand. But it was the first voluntary movement he had made since the surgery began. Grath? Krell moved closer. Can you hear me? The captain's eyes moved beneath his eyelids. His breathing changed, becoming deeper and more regular. He was transitioning from near death to healing sleep. "He's going to make it," Dae-sung said. Relief washed over him like a wave. His knees felt weak. He had been standing for more than 14 hours, operating on pure adrenaline and determination. "Sit down before you fall down," Ji-won ordered. "You're exhausted." Dae-sung sat on a cargo container. Tae-ho brought him water. He drank it gratefully, his hands shaking slightly now that the immediate crisis was over. Ji-won was putting away her equipment with practiced efficiency. "You were reckless. You used unproven methods. You improvised with equipment that was never designed for this purpose. I know. But you were also brilliant." She looked at him directly. "I will be submitting a report to the Coalition Medical Board. I'm going to recommend that humans be considered for emergency medical response teams. Not for your technology, but for your adaptability, for your refusal to accept defeat. Thank you. Don't thank me. You did the work." Ji-won closed her medical kit, though I suppose I helped a little at the end. "You helped a lot." The cargo bay door opened again. Yuna entered, followed by station administrators and other officials. They all wanted to see Grath, to witness the impossible recovery. One of the administrators, a elderly Novan, approached Dae-sung. "What you did here today will be remembered. You've shown us something important, something we had forgotten." "What's that?" "That compassion matters. That trying matters. That sometimes the right thing to do is the thing that seems impossible." Word spread quickly through the station and beyond. Within hours, the story had reached other systems. A human veterinarian and a Quellan doctor saving a Vorkan captain, 3 species that had no reason to trust each other, working together. Krell approached Dae-sung as the cargo bay was being cleared. "The Vorkan clans will hear of this. You have saved the son of a chieftain. You have earned a great honor. I just did what anyone should do. No, most would not. Most would have walked away like your doctor friend almost did." Krell placed his massive hand on Dae-sung's shoulder. The weight was enormous, but the gesture was gentle. "You are now an honor friend of the Vorkan clans. This is a title rarely given to outsiders. It means you are under our protection. It means our resources are yours to call upon." Dae-sung didn't fully understand what that meant, but he could see it was important. "Thank you. Thank you, Dae-sung. You gave us back our captain. You gave us back our honor." Grath remained unconscious but stable. Ji-won arranged for him to be moved to the medical bay where he could be properly monitored. The Vorkan crew would stay on the station during his recovery. As the sun cycle ended and the station's lights dimmed for night, Dae-sung finally left the cargo bay. He was exhausted, his body aching, his mind foggy with fatigue. 3 weeks passed on Crosshaven Terminal. The station returned to its normal rhythms of trade and travel. Ships came and went. Aliens conducted their business. Life continued as it always had, but something had changed. Something subtle but important. Dae-sung noticed it in small ways. The way aliens nodded to him in the corridors, the way conversations quieted when he entered a room. Not from fear, but from respect. A Draxian merchant gave him free meal tokens. A Quellan trader offered him passage to any destination he wanted. No charge. The story had spread far beyond the station. News feeds across multiple systems had picked it up. Human veterinarian saves Vorkan captain was trending on interstellar networks. Some versions of the story were accurate. Many were exaggerated. A few were completely wrong. But the basic truth remained. A human had done something remarkable and people remembered. Dae-sung tried to stay focused on his original mission. He was supposed to be traveling to a frontier colony world to set up an animal care facility. His supplies were ready. His transport was scheduled. He should have left weeks ago, but he stayed to see Grath's recovery through. The Vorkan captain had woken up 5 days after the surgery. His first words were to ask about his crew. Krell had assured him everyone survived. Only then did Grath rest properly. His recovery was faster than expected. Vorkan biology was incredibly resilient. What would have killed most species, what would have taken months of recovery for others, took Grath only 3 weeks. He was weak, but he was alive. He could walk. He could talk. He would fully recover given time. Dae-sung visited him daily in the medical bay. Ji-won had taken personal charge of his care, making sure every treatment was perfect. She worked with a dedication that surprised everyone who knew her cold reputation. "You changed," Dae-sung told her one day while they reviewed Grath's progress. "People do not change. Ji-won replied. They simply remember what they forgot. And what did you remember? Why I became a doctor in the first place. She looked at Grath's sleeping form. Not for the logic. Not for the protocols, for this. For the satisfaction of seeing someone live who should have died. Grath opened his eyes. He had been listening. You're both good healers. Different methods, but the same heart. How are you feeling? Dae-sung asked. Weak, but alive. Grath's voice was still rough, but much stronger than before. Thanks to you. Thanks to many people. Yes, I have heard the stories. How the station came together to help. How strangers donated supplies. Grath shifted in his bed. My father will be interested to hear this. The Vorkan clans do not often see such cooperation between species. Your father is the chieftain? Ji-won asked. Yes, he is traveling here now. He wishes to meet the human who saved his son. Dae-sung felt nervous. Meeting a Vorkan chieftain sounded intimidating. When will he arrive? Tomorrow. The next day, Dae-sung was in his quarters preparing for departure when Taeho burst in. You need to see this now. Dae-sung followed him to the main observation deck. A massive Vorkan vessel had just arrived, larger than any ship currently docked. It was a clan ship, carrying not just warriors but families, elders, cultural leaders. This was not a military vessel. This was a diplomatic one. The chieftain was older than Grath by several decades. His fur was graying, but his presence was powerful. He moved through the station with a delegation of Vorkans, and people moved aside to let them pass. They came to find Dae-sung. Krell led them directly to the observation deck where he stood with Taeho. You are Dae-sung, the chieftain said. It was not a question. Yes, honored chieftain. I am Roth, father of Grath. You saved my son. I did what I could. You did more than that. Roth stepped closer. Up close, he was even more imposing. You showed courage. You showed skill. You showed compassion. These are valued traits among Vorkans. Thank you. You are now an honor friend of the Vorkan clans. This is official, recognized by all clan leaders. Roth held out a pendant carved from some dark stone. Wear this. It marks you as one under our protection. Any Vorkan who sees it will treat you as family. Dae-sung took the pendant carefully. It was warm, heavy with significance. I don't know what to say. Say nothing. Just accept. Roth looked around the observation deck at the other aliens watching this ceremony. What you did has larger meaning. You showed that species can work together, that outsiders can be trusted, that honor exists beyond clan boundaries. I just wanted to help, and in helping one, you helped many. Roth gestured to his delegation. The Vorkan clans will remember this. We are difficult allies, I admit. We are proud. We are aggressive. But we value honor and debt. You are owed a debt that cannot be fully repaid, but we will try. News of the ceremony spread instantly. The Vorkan clans had officially recognized a human as an honor friend. Diplomatic analysts were already discussing what this meant for human-Vorkan relations. The Galactic Coalition was taking notice. Humans were still relatively new to galactic politics. They were often seen as the junior members, the ones still learning the rules. But this action elevated their status. If the proud Vorkans could respect a human, could call him honor friend, then humans deserved respect. Ji-won's report to the Coalition Medical Board arrived the same day. She had written extensively about the surgery, about Dae-sung's methods, about the cooperation between species. Her recommendation was clear. Humans should be included in emergency medical response teams across the galaxy. The report went further. She proposed a new training program combining Quellan medical precision with human adaptive improvisation. She called it the Crosshaven Protocol after the station where it all happened. Dae-sung read the report in his quarters. It was thorough, scientific, but also strangely passionate for something written by Ji-won. She had changed more than she admitted. A message arrived on his communication device. It was from the frontier colony where he was supposed to establish his animal care facility. They had heard about what happened. They were excited to have him. But they had a question. Would he be willing to also train their medical personnel? They had doctors, but they wanted someone who could teach them to think differently, to improvise, to adapt. They wanted him to share what he knew. Dae-sung thought about it. He was a veterinarian. He fixed animals. That was his training, his expertise. But maybe he had become something more. Maybe he had learned that healing was healing regardless of species. He sent back his answer. Yes. More messages came over the following days. Research institutions wanted to study his methods. Medical schools wanted him to give lectures. A documentary crew wanted to follow him to the colony. Everyone wanted a piece of the story. It was overwhelming. Dae-sung had never wanted fame. He had just wanted to help animals, to live quietly, to do good work. "You cannot go back to simple now," Krell told him on his last day on the station. Grath was well enough to leave the medical bay, strong enough to stand beside his first mate. "You have become important. Like it or not?" "I don't like it much," Dae-sung admitted. "Then focus on the work. Let others worry about the importance." Grath placed a hand on his shoulder. "You saved my life. But more than that, you showed me something I had forgotten. That kindness exists even in desperate situations. That strangers can become friends. That trying is better than calculating odds. Those are good lessons. Yes. Lessons I will carry for the rest of my life." Dae-sung said his goodbyes to Grath and Krell, who were returning to their clan world, to Yuna, who promised to keep the station safe for the next person who needed help, to the many aliens who had donated supplies and support. Ji-won came to see him off at the docking bay. "Your transport is ready. Thank you for everything. I should thank you. You reminded me why I became a doctor. That is a valuable gift." She hesitated, which was unusual for her. "Will you stay in contact?" "I would like to follow your work. Perhaps collaborate in the future." "I'd like that." "Good." She handed him a data chip. "This contains everything I know about treating multiple species. Consider it a professional courtesy." Dae-sung boarded his transport ship with Taeho, who had decided to come along. His friend wanted to help establish the animal care facility. More than that, he wanted to learn. Dae-sung had inspired him to become more than a cargo handler. As the ship pulled away from Crosshaven Terminal, Dae-sung looked back at the station through the viewport. It floated there in space, a place where different species came together. It had changed his life. He had gone from anonymous veterinarian to someone whose name was known across systems, but he tried not to think about that. He tried to focus on what mattered, the work, the animals waiting at the colony, the people who needed training. The ship's communication system pinged. "An incoming message." Dae-sung opened it. It was from a space station 3 systems away. They had an emergency. A Quellan merchant was injured in an accident. Their doctors had never treated a Quellan before. The injuries were severe. They didn't know what to do. The message ended with a simple request. "Can you help?" Dae-sung looked at the message for a long time. Then he looked at Taeho. "What are you going to do?" his friend asked. "What do you think I'm going to do?" "I think you're going to help. You know me well." Dae-sung sent a message to the colony, explaining that he would be delayed again. Then he sent a message to the station with the emergency. He was coming. He would help.